Hello. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome back to another episode of Plumecast. Hope everyone's having a good Saturday night. Lots of interesting things to talk about this Saturday night. Some big news has happened over the last couple of days. Big news with Google Stadia shutting down. And then just recently, we're hearing about Activision Blizzard, the deal going to the EU. Apparently, Jimmy Ryan flying out to try to do his best to stop the deal from going through. And we have. It looks like we have Jim Ryan in the chat today, which is perfect timing. Welcome, Jim. Any comments on what your thoughts are on the Activision Blizzard deal? Why have you flown out to Brussels? How scared are you of Xbox owning Activision Blizzard, particularly Call of Duty? Lots of interesting stuff going on. It's been a wild couple of weeks, months or so talking about this deal, going over this deal, and it's going to continue to expand between now and then the time that the deal closes. But we'll get into all that. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for stopping by. Welcome, GFET, Jake, Ninja, Raichi, Real YouTube Shadow, Void Rat, Saron Blake, and of course, again, welcome President Jim Ryan to the Plumecast. So first of all, I always like to talk about what games I've been playing, and be honest, I've jumped back into a lot of Halo Infinite recently. This past week, I don't know what's gotten into me, but been playing campaign, trying to go through that because I think I was part of that glitch where everything got delayed. It's like my third time playing through the campaign, so everything I think got deleted. So I'm going through trying to 100% the campaign for the third time, and man, the gameplay, the core foundation of Halo Infinite is just so damn good. It's so fun. Like I could sit there for hours playing through that campaign and not get bored. I just hope they add more content to it. It's like the biggest issue right now when it comes to Halo, but it is a damn well-made game when it comes to the core gameplay and everything. So been playing Halo Infinite, jumping back into the multiplayer. It's fun. It's fun. There's the content thing. That's why it's such a shame when it comes to that game, with the community falling off and the hate it's getting, because it deserves the hate for not bringing out the content, but the gameplay is damn good. So that's mainly what I've been jumping into this week. I randomly started Assassin's Creed 2 again. I'm probably gonna play through that. Try to go through them all the Assassin's Creed games. But that's been my gameplay this week. And today I'm not drinking a beer. I'm drinking a little different today. I'm drinking some whiskey tonight. So let me know in the comments you guys are drinking: water, coffee, tea, Coke, beer, alcohol of some sort. What are you guys doing tonight? How's your Saturday night going, everyone? When the gaming is involved, panic. Yeah, honestly, that's we'll see what the EU does. I mean, they're just doing their report right now for having to look into this deal. It's a $69 billion deal, so obviously there's going to be deep dives into everything that's going on. But the kicker of all this, I guess, again, is Sony and PlayStation and Jim Ryan jumping in to try their best to stop this. I swear Jim Ryan has some sort of his job on the line. Maybe they're telling him, hey man, if you don't stop this deal, you're going to be out of a job, because we don't think that we're going to be able to continue to be as big or as popular and as dominant as we've been over the last generation or so with the PlayStation 4, which is something that is completely PlayStation's fault, that they just sat on their success and decided, hey, we're just going to go into 2020, the release of these brand new consoles, and continue to do everything that we've been doing throughout these years when the entire industry is changing, just expecting Xbox to sit there and do absolutely nothing, and just take it and take it and take it, when obviously there's so many signs showing that why would they not want to be huge in the gaming industry as Xbox, right? Because the industry is one of the biggest entertainment. It continues to grow every single year. There's more money in it than ever, and the technology is there to push gaming out to as many people as possible, which is obviously what they're doing. And then with the cloud stuff that they're completely dominating, we'll talk about Google Stadia as well. shutting down. But first of all here, RDX Son of Fett, thank you very much for the $7 super chat. I really appreciate that. Worst case, it goes to court, and Microsoft has done that before, won in court. Sony can cry all they want. Microsoft's lawyers are some of the best. And yeah, that is the thing. If it does go to court, Microsoft has some of the best lawyers. What I'm trying to understand out of all of this, if you're PlayStation, what's going through your mind? Because yes, Microsoft, huge corporation, extremely rich, can go through and out-lawyer anyone that they want with the amount of money they have, right? But if you're Microsoft right now, I mean, if you're PlayStation, you're Sony, they must think that there is some chance that they're going to be able to stop this thing from going through, or they wouldn't be wasting all of their time doing this type of stuff, because it's bringing really bad PR to PlayStation. If you're out there, you're following the industry, even if you're somebody who's a PlayStation fanboy, I mean, it's bringing bad marketing and bad PR to PlayStation, which they've always done shady stuff. That's the thing, that unless you really follow everything, they've always done shady stuff. But in general, if you're somebody who doesn't follow the industry every single day, you think PlayStation is like the greatest thing out there, right? But doing stuff like this is going to get into like the mainstream of like business, of financial shows and all that type of stuff, right? I think it will, most likely. So like, they're just like making themselves look bad more and more. So it's pretty crazy that they're continuing to go down these lines. They must think that they have a way to stop this, or they must think that like they have like some sort of argument that will help will make these regulators stop the deal from going through. Maybe they're also like something I've talked about previously. Maybe they're also banking on the fact that they expect these government regulatory organizations, departments, whatever you want to call them, to just not know enough about the video game industry, maybe not do enough due diligence to see how this deal isn't going to destroy competition. In fact, it's probably going to help a lot more people actually be able to access and play the games that they're going to be getting with it. So we'll wait and see how all that stuff does. But yeah, it's been wild. And we'll start here with the first article. Got to get it up here 1 second. Just Jim Ryan flying out to Brussels, having a good old time, having a grand old time, trying to do their best PlayStation to stop this deal. So this is from Video Game Chronicle. PlayStation boss Jim Ryan flew to Brussels to voice concerns to the EU over Xbox's Activision deal, which is hilarious. See, like the Jim Ryan's getting a free trip to Brussels on Sony, on PlayStation. Probably he's going to be out there enjoying himself, having a good time, and then trying to do his best to stop the deal from going through. That is probably just going to be the side part of the trip. But it says here, according to Dealer Reporter, which is a paywalled website, the Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO personally visited the EU headquarters on September 8th. So this was a couple of weeks ago, to voice the console rivals' concerns over the proposed $68.7 billion deal. As has been widely publicized in recent weeks, PlayStation's concerns over the deal are around the future release arrangements for the Call of Duty series, which is regularly PlayStation's annual bestseller, and whether it will be pulled from their platform. Something that we know, obviously, has been said multiple times, that it is not going to be pulled from the platforms, at least in the next couple of years. And maybe Xbox is going to reassess that in 3, 4, 5 years from now, however long they choose. And maybe if PlayStation hasn't changed their ways in terms of the way they operate within the industry, they're going to lose customers, not only because Call of Duty's not there, but because they are far less consumer friendly than Xbox. Like, I think about this sometimes. And like, if you are out there and you're just wanting to pick up a video game console, you're probably looking at all your options. You're walking into a store and you have somebody you ask, or you're just looking at it objectively, like, why in the world would you pick up a PlayStation 5 right now over an Xbox? It doesn't make any sense unless you specifically are only wanting to play like God of War or something. But if you're out there, you just want to get a console to play games, play third-party games, just try out stuff. Why in the world would you get a PlayStation 5 over Xbox? I can't think of any real good reasons, to be completely honest with you. And honestly, I know this is Xbox centric channel, but like that's That's how I'm looking at it objectively, in my opinion. Like, you pick up an Xbox. First of all, in Canada, you're paying less for the console, and then you're getting access to Xbox Game Pass. And if you pick up a Series X, you're getting a more powerful console. So everything is better on Xbox. You get backwards compatibility. You get like things like quick resume. So it's such an easier sell than picking up PlayStation when you look at comparatively to the two consoles. RDX Unfed again, thank you with the 279 super chat. Unions are backing the deal, and that matters. That's true. Unions are backing the deal. They're happy with it. They've already come out. What was it? The workers of, I forget what it was. It was one of those big union organizations that initially were like against the deal. We're like, no, we don't want this. And then Microsoft came out and said, hey, we're going to support unions if they are voted on. We're going to let people vote and not feel like they have to vote and stuff like that. And they came out and supported the deal, which is, again, yeah, you're right. It is going to be huge. But yeah, like we think back about the two platforms. You walk into a store, you see one PS5, you see an Xbox. PS5 is going to be priced. What now? It's going to be $50 more than the Series X. That alone to me is a huge detriment to the amount of sales that they're going to be getting from, I guess, like the casual mainstream customer who just doesn't follow the industry as much as everybody else. All right, it continues on here. Google has also said to have voiced its concerns to the EU regulators, according to the same sources. So this is something new, which is surprise. Well, I guess it's not surprising. I guess Microsoft and Google have kind of always gone at it. But I think initially with the Brazilian committee, the questions that were asked, Google didn't come out with anything negative. So now they're coming out with stuff negative. We know Stadia has closed down. You have people out here saying like, oh, it closed down because of Xbox, which I think makes absolutely zero sense. Yeah, Xbox has a much better offering in terms of cloud gaming, in terms of a subscription service than Google when it comes to video games, but Google is a massive company. They have all the resources in the world to work with. They're known for literally graveyarding like all of their new projects that if they don't work out in a certain amount of time, they just shut them down because they can afford to do it. Stadia shut down because Google Stadia wasn't good. It didn't provide enough value. They didn't market it properly. They tried to get into an industry that they weren't in, tried to break into the video game industry as a main pillar in gaming, and it just failed. So that's why it closed down, not because of Xbox. If Google can't figure out how to run a subscription gaming service, it's Google's fault, not Xbox's fault. But like now, I guess they're coming out and voicing their concerns for EU regulators as well. They're gonna come out and say, hey, we had to shut down Stadia, I guess, because Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Cloud Gaming is just too big, and it's too much of a market share. We can't compete, especially if they get something like Call of Duty on the platform. How are we going to be able to compete with them? I don't know. Last month, Xbox Phil Spencer said Microsoft had committed to making Call of Duty available on PlayStation for several more years after Sony's current marketing deal with Activision expires. Yeah, we already gone over that. And Jim Ryan, who's reportedly seeking access to future Call of Duty games on equal terms and in perpetuity, which I find this absolutely comical. When he comes out and says he wants Call of Duty games on equal terms, it's just like even with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, it's not equal with the exclusive content that you're getting on PlayStation right now with the marketing deal. But he wants now Xbox, once they've purchased Activision Blizzard, to be the nice guy and give them everything equal with every single release of the game. We'll see if that happens. I don't think it will. I think Xbox is definitely going to be using Call of Duty as a bargaining chip for getting people to come over to the Xbox ecosystem by adding perks into Game Pass, by adding cosmetic DLC that you can only get on Xbox. I think they'll definitely do that, and I'm not a fan of that at all. I'm not saying I want them to do it, but if you're Xbox, you should probably, from a business perspective, you should do stuff like that to give people, hey, if they're trying to choose between, they're torn, they want the PS5 version, they want this Xbox version, and they don't really care about Game Pass too much. Like, it's the only game that they want to play for that year. Give them that little incentive. Hey, if I do sign up to Game Pass, I'm not only going to save on the game in terms of pricing right off initially, I'm going to get access to some more DLC stuff. So I would be surprised if they don't do that. But it's just hilarious how now it's like, now because Xbox is buying it, they want everything to be equal when they weren't operating in the same way whatsoever. Later the same month, Sony welcomed to the news that the UK competition regulator has launched an in-depth probe of Microsoft's Activision Blizzard deal. We know that. Step 2. They're going into step 2. By giving Microsoft control of Activision games like Call of Duty, this deal would have major negative implications for gamers and the future of the gaming industry. It claimed, we want to guarantee PlayStation gamers continue to have the highest quality gaming experience. We appreciate the CMA's focus on protecting gamers. Well, if you're a PlayStation gamer, if you listen to what PlayStation gamers say all the time, unless the game is a first-party PlayStation game, it's not high quality. It has to be a first-party PlayStation game. It has to be in that virtuous cycle for it to be high quality to the fanboys, right? But I think after this week as well, I think after this week when we got the numbers about the Modern Warfare 2 beta and how it's the biggest beta of all time, players, hours played, all that type of stuff. Like, this is what PlayStation's staring right in the face from this deal, is that their biggest money maker every single year it grows pretty much every single year. And the biggest one of all is going to be not owned by Xbox for a couple of months, and then it's going to be completely owned by Xbox. And I'm not sure how that deal works and everything, but I'm guessing right away they start having to pay all of those royalties. Well, yeah, no, they have to. They own all of Activision, so they're going to be paying all of those royalties instantly to Xbox to invest back into Xbox and back into the ecosystem, back into Game Pass. And they're staring that in the face right now, and they are scared out of their minds as to how that's just going to work out. Like, they're going to have to settle in, I think, by the end of this generation, going into the next, as behind Xbox. I think they will be, for sure, when it's all said and done. Like, Xbox has made those moves since the Xbox One generation, instead of folding and going away. They thought ahead about everything with Game Pass, and they are here and they're taking it seriously. And when you poke a $1 trillion corporation, take this stuff seriously, and they start, there's really no way you can stop it. But you can still compete. That's the thing. They can still definitely compete. They have multiple IPs that they have in their backlog of first-person shooters that they can make a ton of money off of. They can invest in another smaller studio to make something to compete with Call of Duty. Like, there's so many things that they could do. You look at the stuff that EA has talked about, with them looking at this as an opportunity for Battlefield, which obviously Xbox isn't taking the same, or PlayStation isn't taking the same approach. But Jim Ryan's flying out to Brussels, doing his best to stop this deal. I think they have to decide by November 8th. I thought I had read, as if they want to go into phase 2. One thing we can guarantee is that this deal is not closing in 2022. Disappointing a little bit. I was hoping that it would close early. I was hoping that, hey, maybe we'll get Modern Warfare 2 on Game Pass at some point before the end of the year. Obviously, that's not going to happen. Hey, Nate Joe, welcome. Hope you're enjoying your weekend too. Josh, what's up, man? How you doing? Void Rat, I wouldn't get a PS5, not because I hate the console, just because of how anti-consumer Sony are being right now. Yeah, I mean, I have a PS5. I don't use it that much, but if it was up to me right now, I would probably not be, like, you walk into a store, like I've said, I don't get how people would even, if you're looking at both options and you don't really care about like the specific first party PlayStation games, I don't see in any right mind why you would pick a PS5 right now over Xbox. There's really no advantage to it. There's really nothing better to it. There's nothing that gives you more value or more incentives to purchase the console. And I think that that's going to be continuing like that all this generation. PlayStation is trying to adjust. I mean, PlayStation Plus, right? They're trying to expand that out. We saw last week talking about Yoshida and his comments and basically saying, hey, we're not putting first party games into the service on day one. Essentially still thinking that the gaming industry is like the movie industry, where you have all the different tiers of releases, which is like release it into theaters and then on what was that, on Blu-ray or whatever, and then to streaming service, some of them, all that type of stuff. They're still going along those lines. But I think eventually, like, you look at what Google Stadia did. People have talked about Google Stadia. I've never really experienced it, but from what I've heard about Google Stadia is that the actual service itself, in terms of how good the streaming was better than Xbox Cloud Gaming. Like, it was really, really good. It was stable. It ran well. So they definitely had the infrastructure to support it. But you're looking at Google Stadia, and then you're looking at Xbox Game Pass, and Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. What incentive do you have? What value is added to going to Google Stadia instead of Xbox? They do everything that Google Stadia did, but with way more. By being able to download your games, and obviously getting access to the cloud stuff and playing it anywhere you want, and getting access to first party games on day one, which is something Google fails to have because they don't have those big first party games. They aren't established in the video game industry, in the video game market, in terms of like console gaming and PC gaming. So I don't think this is a surprise to anybody when they cancel Google Stadia. I really don't. In fact, there's been a lot of stuff happening with the cancellation. Like developers saying that they had games getting ready to release into the service, and now they're not sure what's going to happen. They're blindsided, basically based off of the fact that they don't know if they're going to be losing the money that they've already invested into getting these games onto Stadia and all that type of stuff. So this is an interesting thing to keep an eye on going forward. What's going to happen to a lot of these games? They're going to have to do something, especially if they were slated just to release on Google Stadia. This is an article from Axios saying Google Stadia shutdown sends blindsided developers scrambling. So developers working on games for Google Stadia service heard the streaming platform was shutting down when the news broke yesterday, according to public accounts and sources speaking to Axios. Why it matters, Google's abrupt move has sent developers scrambling and raised numerous questions about the fate of Stadia's games and the money spent to make them. What they're saying, I'm like, this is news to me. This is Rebecca Henneman told Axios, calling the reaction when colleagues on the forthcoming Stadia game shared a link yesterday to an article saying the service was shutting down. That's such a Google thing, just to completely pull the rug out from everybody and just say, hey, we're shutting it down. Because there's no consequence to it to them. Realistically, Google, they lost a couple of dollars here and there. They have so much they can just move on to the next project, and it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter to Google. Nothing's going to happen. They obviously are like, okay, the cloud isn't where it's at for us. It's mobile gaming, which we already make a ton of money off of. We kind of have to just continue with that. That's what I'm thinking. They looked at those numbers, and why waste the infrastructure and money on keeping Google Stadia up? Other indie developers tweeted that they were caught off guard too. Sony owned Bungie, makers of Destiny 2, also stated yesterday that they hadn't gotten a heads up. So that's a huge studio that didn't get a heads up. So it's not just small studios that were caught off guard with Google Stadia closing. Between the lines, the abrupt closure of Stadia's online store and plans for a quick wind down could cost game makers money, obviously. And Henneman said her Stadia rep, unpromoted, brought up the topic of a reimbursement. Okay, so there's that. She asked me, how much money did I invest into making the game? 5-figure sum for dev costs and expected profits for what was to be the November Stadia release of Luxor Evolved. Then they said they'll work on that. So who knows? It's unclear whether Google's actually going to reimburse developers for this stuff or if they're just going to be left out to dry. But this could definitely be an opportunity for some of these games. If they were planned specifically just for Stadia, it could be an opportunity for Xbox, for PlayStation. I mean, if they want to sweep in here and get some of these games over to Game Pass and build more goodwill with these developers as to how a subscription and cloud service is ran properly. Because, man, Google Stadia, when it first got announced, there was a lot of doubt. There was a ton of doubt with it. And I feel like over the last year, we've like literally heard nothing about the service. They don't do marketing. They don't talk about it. They didn't push it out. At the Game Awards, instead of advertising Google Stadia as like their main gaming platform last year, they advertised Google Play. I thought that was like a telltale sign that it was dead in the water. They were just waiting it out to shut down. And then we got this announcement here. And then he brings us back to like the competition side of things, blaming Xbox for the shutdown of Google Stadia. which my opinion is completely absurd. I saw a clip on Twitter. I think it was from, I forget who it was from. I think it was from Game On Daily, something like that. And he was saying how like this could be used for Google as to kind of like come out and throw shots at Xbox to try and stop this deal, because they've been going back and forth, because Xbox stepped in within the Epic versus Apple case and said that they were against the way that Google Play handled their Play Store with the revenues and stuff like that. And yeah, they definitely could come out and use this stuff against them to try to stop the deal for Activision going through. I think that point is definitely valid. My only thing is if, like I said, if you're a regulator in the EU, in the CMA, in the FTC, all that type of stuff, if you're any of these regulators, do they just sit there, look at what like Sony's telling them, look at what Google's telling them, and just say, hey, like, okay, we're taking their word for face value and we're going to make our decision based off that? Or do they actually look into the industry and see what is actually going on and the difference between the practices and the stuff that Xbox has been doing this generation with the value of the consumer friendliness versus what PlayStation's doing? I wonder what they do, because if they just take their words for face value, you know, it could potentially hinder the deal in some way. But I think there's absolutely no chance the deal gets stopped if they just look into it. And then obviously Xbox's side of things, they're going to present their story, which will prompt them to look further into this type of stuff as well. So we'll see how that all goes down. But yeah, it's interesting time. I don't remember living through another time within the gaming industry where it was getting this serious between these big, massive companies. I think like Nintendo versus Sega back in the day, for like the Genesis and the Super Nintendo. I mean, they've always competed, but all of the dirty laundry is getting laid out onto the table, and I feel like there's going to be more to come. But see what you guys are saying here. On speculation, what's up, man? How you doing? 98% of the shareholders, the people who basically own the company, have already approved in favor of the deal. This is the ironclad, and Sony can't do shit because of it. Yeah, that's true. 98% of the shareholders, this was a while ago that they voted on it, which shows the confidence. But I mean, they were told to, I think they must have been like, hey, you vote this through, you're going to make more money off of your stocks. They don't think Activision was able to was going to be able to get back up to where they were, which I think they're selling at what, $95 a share or something like that. That I do agree with PlayStation. There it is, the Microsoft stuff that you're doing. That's just their way. It's never a way of gaming before. Not sure what you mean there, Brandon. Not sure what you mean. Google makes a ton of money on Google Play Store and Google Play Pass, so they are heavily involved in gaming, just less directly with their own console like PC, like gaming service. Yeah, Google Play Pass. Yeah, that's their bread and butter for gaming. I think that's what they're looking at. Stadia, right? And I guess a lot of the people can purchase stuff through the Play Store as well through Stadia. From what I understood, they can they're reimbursing people who made any purchases through Google Play Store, hardware, DLC, all that type of stuff. My hope is that this gets Microsoft stopping nice to Sony. Yeah. I don't know if Microsoft is like, they are nice to them on the surface, but back in the boardrooms, I don't know if they're sitting there trying to be nice to them. They're probably just doing what they think is going to help them the most going forward. But at this point, it's like PlayStation's doing so much damage to themselves, their PR, their reputation, continuously coming out trying to block this deal, that I think people will look at Microsoft and Xbox going forward and they'll expect them to be harder to be harder on like all the stuff that they're doing and not be as nice with their deals and not be as open to everything with things like keeping Deathloop on the platform for an entire year, keeping Ghostwire Tokyo. Yeah, I know those deals were signed before, but I'm sure they could have broken the deals. But then at the same time, does it matter? Doesn't matter to me. If they keep their games everywhere, it does not matter to me at all. But at the end of the day, it'll be super interesting to see what happens if the deal doesn't go through, if it does get blocked, what this is going to mean, because PlayStation is just going to continue along their ways. Let's say this deal doesn't go through, they're going to just continue with their ways of doing things like having exclusive quests, doing things like having exclusive content for Call of Duty. All that type of stuff's going to continue, and it'll just be so funny that they came out, they said that they want to keep parity, they want to keep everything the same across all platforms, and that Call of Duty and Xbox is going to hinder the industry. It's going to make it so nobody can compete. And if these people listen to them and then they continue going along their ways, they'll have kudos to them. They'll have done a good job. But at the end of the day, it's crazy. So hopefully they do look into this more, these regulators. I'm sure they will. This is probably just all just like formal processes they have to go through. But like I was saying at the beginning, the PlayStation must think there's a chance. They must think there's a chance that by sending Jim Ryan out there to all of these regulators and show up, try to stop the deal, and try to present some sort of heavy case against Xbox and Microsoft as to how this is going to really like destroy the video game industry when it comes to competition. When you see other companies out there continuing to grow, like Tencent. Tencent's huge. Not a lot of people think about Tencent when it comes to the North American market, because to be fair, they aren't huge in the North American market. I think the majority of their market is China, but they're continuing to invest. They're continuing to grow. Even recently with like the From Software stuff that they've been jostling to get more share of with Sony. Sony's trying to get more share into From Software as well. So all that stuff is all contained. When we talk about Tencent, let's see here. We have this here about them. So Tencent is reportedly refocusing on aggressively seeking full game company acquisitions. Chinese giant reportedly wants to offset uncertainty at home. And this is from a new report from Routers, which claims that the conglomerate is putting more focus on buying companies outright following years of investing in minority stakes as it attempts to offset slowing growth at home in China. Again, something we've seen them do. They just invest in these companies, which, I mean, they'll be making more money off of those investments if they're companies that continue to do well, like From Software specifically. Tencent, which is the world's biggest video game company by revenue, has already invested in more than 800 companies. Holy crap, that's a lot. That includes a 40% stake in Epic Games. Oh yeah, that's another huge stake. And holds shares in Activision Blizzard, Ubisoft, PUBG Studios, parent company Krafton, Platinum Games, From Software, Marvelous. So they hold shares in Activision Blizzard, which means once the deal goes through, they'll hold shares in Microsoft. I wonder what the percentage is. It will be nothing significant. I don't really give them any power, I don't think, but I guess we'll see. Tencent has made fewer full acquisitions. Currently, it owns 100% of developers such as Funcom. They own Riot Games. I mean, that's like their big, it's like their big cash in Riot Games. And Riot Games, that's people haven't talked about this in a while, but they're bringing all their content over to Xbox Game Pass, which is going to be massive. That's going to be massive. Getting access to like all the heroes and champions and stuff in those in Valorant, and there's some cosmetics and stuff you get access to. I don't know, but that was something they announced at the Xbox and Bethesda showcase. That's going to be so big for bringing people into Game Pass. I think that's going to be one of the biggest things that Xbox has done in order to increase the subscription, specifically obviously for Game Pass PC, but just in general. Like, that is crazy, that deal that I got for Riot Games. It's going to continue to they can do more stuff like that. Like, those are really smart moves, I think, from Xbox. According to Router sources, the tech giant is now aggressively seeking to own a majority or controlling stakes in overseas targets, notably in Europe. shifted in strategies reportedly due to the company's newfound reliance on global markets for future growth as China strengthens regulations at home. So yeah, makes sense. They're going to have to continue to invest in more companies abroad, or they won't be able to continue to grow with all the regulations coming in. Tencent told Routers the company had been investing abroad for a long time, long before any new regulations. It looks for innovative companies with talented management teams and gives them room to grow independently, the company said. Tencent confirmed during an earnings call in August that it would remain active in acquiring studios overseas. In terms of the game business, our strategy is to focus on developing our capabilities, especially in the international market. We will continue to be very active in terms of acquiring new game studios outside of China. So this is, like, I think Tencent is going to be the biggest company right here that Microsoft and Xbox have to deal with going forward in terms of a competitor, especially after the Activision Blizzard deal. This is going to be the big boy. It's not even going to be about PlayStation anymore. It's going to be Tencent coming in here as they're continuing to try and grow and jostle and buy more companies. It's what this whole generation has been about, right? This generation, we look at it and we get excited about the acquisition of Bethesda, and then all those games coming into Xbox Game Pass, and then Activision Blizzard, and all those games coming into Xbox Game Pass, and whatever else comes down the line. And then if you're PlayStation, I guess the acquisition of Bungie, even though those games are all staying multi-platform, which is great, but I mean, just the acquisition of Bungie, what was the other one? Jade Raymond Studio, and a bunch of other smaller studios that they bought. We get excited for this now, but all of these acquisitions, all these moves that are being made in this generation literally are just jostling and trying to set themselves up for future success for the next generation and the generation after. This is like this maybe go down. I don't know if I'm being hyperbolic here, but this may be the most important generation ever in the video game industry with everything that is going on with the shift, or at least shift into this next wave of console generations. Because it's huge. It's a big shifting point. I don't think we've seen anything like this before. And then there's more. I mean, Phil Spencer's already talked about going out and having to acquire more, talking to Japanese studios and other studios that they are going to be looking to buy. Microsoft should grab Asobo after the deal. That's one that, yeah, I mean, a lot of people bring that one up. They've already done a ton of work with them. Would make a lot of sense. In fact, I mean, a Plague Tale. First one was on Game Pass, right? Now the second one, which from everything we're hearing about Plague Tale, Requiem, or Requiem, right? Or everything we're hearing about that one, it sounds like it could be like almost Game of the Year material from previews and everything people have been talking about. So pretty excited. I never played the first one. I'm probably just gonna jump into the second one, to be honest. I've never played the first one. Looks interesting. Looks very linear, narrative driven. So looks like a Sony game. Like it looks like a PlayStation first party game, which is cool. Like they're not my favorite styles of games, but I definitely will be jumping into it, check it out on Game Pass Day 1. Why not? But yeah, we'll see how this goes. I find like especially for Game Awards and for all that type of stuff, Game of the Year, I find like the games that are more linear, cinematic, narrative driven have a higher chance of winning awards. I mean, what won last year? What was it? Takes Two? Great game. That one actually has a ton of great gameplay, so that kind of defeats my argument, but it was definitely like highly cinematic and linear and stuff. But it was a great game. A very good co-op game. I think it won. One big reason is because it was different. It was unique. It was something we hadn't seen. We don't see a lot of, and it did it so well. I think he just teased that his next game. So, but yeah, Plague's Tale: Innocence. I've never played it. I will try out Requiem. I hope there's not like a huge gap in the story. that will make it hard to play. But what's up, everyone? Welcome. I hope everyone's having a good night. If you are jumping in the chat, hit that like button. Share the channel around with your friends and stuff. Trying to hit 10K subscribers by the end of the year. Should be really cool. Getting there. We're getting there. What else do we want to talk about today? Talk about. I mean, I feel like the next couple of weeks are gonna be completely dominated with the Xbox Activision stuff. So that goes through. But hey, we have great games coming out in October. Gotham Knights, right? Call of Duty at the end of the month. What's coming? I think there's like 2 other big ones. Gotham Knights and Call of Duty are 2 that I'm extremely excited for. Gotham Knights, I say Gotham Knights more so though. But then you also have the Game Pass stuff, like Persona's coming over to Game Pass, which is big. Plague Tale coming out, obviously. I talked about, but that's coming to Game Pass. So there's tons of stuff. Warhammer, oh no, that's a different game. And Gotham Knights, yeah. Yeah, there's gonna be tons to play this month. Bayonetta 3 is also coming out. Forgot about that. It's coming out on Switch. But we're getting into that time of the year right now. These next 2 months of video games is going to be big. It's going to make up for a slower year, I'd say, in big AAA releases. But I think like Modern Warfare 2 at the end of the month is going to be the dominating game. It's going to dominate for months. People have been playing through the beta. People enjoyed the beta. I was so on the beta. It's cool. I think that I'll have fun with it. I do enjoy Call of Duty, but I hope they make a couple changes like the footsteps and it'd be cool if they went back to the older style of radar, but I doubt they're going to be doing that. But we know one thing when it comes to PlayStation. When it comes to Xbox, they have them completely beat when it comes to live service, multiplayer, games with longevity, essentially. And we know that PlayStation has come out and they've said that they want to work on more live service games. I think it was like 10 by 2026 or something. And I've got some more information here where you can see PlayStation is really trying to adjust. Like, I could rant on this. I'll go back to here for a second. I could rant on this for a bit. We started this generation off before the launch of the PS5 and the Series X and S. You have people like me, you have a lot of people out there, not just me. I'm not trying to take all the credit for this, yeah. But a lot of people were like, you know what? The PlayStation has to adjust their strategy. If you aren't paying attention yet to Xbox Game Pass, you aren't paying attention yet to what Xbox is doing, you're going to start paying attention soon, and they're going to be too far behind unless they adjust their strategy. And it's going to be a very interesting generation. So they came out, they launched the PS5. Everything was going to be the same. Started off with not believing in generations, then they believed in generations. Or no, they started off with believing in generations, and they didn't believe in generations. They had to scramble with their backwards compatibility and get more PS4 games on there, which I honestly believe that if Xbox didn't champion backwards compatibility, there would be no backwards compatibility in this industry right now on either of these consoles. There would be definitely none on PlayStation if Xbox didn't champion and they didn't see how good the backwards compatibility was, which I still think is one of the best things that we have right now with these consoles is the ability to play these older games, especially when they're upgraded. And I mean, Xbox is far better than PlayStation does. And then they saw Game Pass. They saw Game Pass starting to grow. They saw that like all the money is in keeping people interested in your game for a long period of time, which is why live service games are so important. I'm not a huge fan of the live service stuff. I don't play that many of them. I mean, Halo Infinite live service, and they haven't done it right, but once they get that going, like the gameplay is solid, so it will be, I think it will recover and be fine, but if it doesn't, it will be sad. Then Sony, they're looking at this. They're looking at people signing up to Game Pass and spending months of their lives, hours, months, years playing one game, spending all their time in that one game, and subscribing to a service that gives them that one game. It's a genius business model by Xbox if you think about it, to get people onto a service, playing a live service game, and then paying $15 a month every month, which at the end of the day for the content and the value you're getting from Game Pass is absolutely nothing. PlayStation sees that, and they're finally like, okay, we got to change our strategy. We got to start adjusting now. And this is where I think that they are too late. This is where I think they're too late to the party, that by the time it's all said and done, once Activision Blizzard deal goes through, once Xbox starts releasing their games day and date onto the service, or more of their games, like next year is going to be crazy with Starfield and Redfall, Forza Motorsport, all stuff that's going to be coming out. I think it's going to be just too late for them to be able to catch up to this, because everyone is going to be looking at Game Pass as the premier place to play. And if PlayStation continues with what they're saying, which is we're not putting their first party games into PlayStation Plus, I don't think there's any chance for them to be able to catch Xbox eventually in the subscription service thing and in the cloud gaming, all that type of stuff. But I do think at some point PlayStation is going to be putting their first party games into Game Pass on day one. And all of this is because Xbox, again, like in previous generations, made these innovative ideas, made these innovative things into advancing the industry forward, and other people have followed in their suit. Now, I'm not trying to say Xbox is perfect or anything, and they've made a lot of mistakes throughout the generations, but right now, if you look at the gaming that we have available to us with Game Pass, it's never ever been better in the history of video games. It really hasn't. For the amount you're paying per month and the access to games that you're getting, never been seen before. And will we be here right now if it wasn't for Phil Spencer? First of all, Phil Spencer and Xbox releasing Xbox Game Pass. And this is why I love Xbox this generation. I didn't even get an Xbox when it launched last generation. I got a PS4. I played PlayStation 4 before I got Xbox. And I go where the company, I mean, they treat their customers the best, where they have the most value. And it's not even close right now. And that's why they're working on stuff like this. With their God of War's PC port studio says it's working with Sony on a flagship live service game. Again, not surprising, because they're going to have to continue making more stuff like that. So Vancouver, Canada-based Jetpack Interactive is also still working on the God of War series, it's claimed, perhaps suggesting the plans are in motion to bring upcoming PlayStation sealed God of War Ragnarok to PC sooner rather than later. This, I think, will definitely be happening sooner rather than later. I would be shocked if Ragnarok doesn't come to PC, like maybe next year. I would be shocked, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised if Ragnarok comes to PC next year. They're sitting back, they're looking at the numbers of the first God of War and how well that did on PC. Why would you restrict all the money you're going to make by putting this game on PC? And then, especially with like the chip shortage stuff they keep complaining about, the inflation that they have to sell their consoles for more money, all that garbage. Why would you just put it on PC? It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm trying to think of a logical reason why they wouldn't just release this onto PC right away. It makes no sense. Yeah, I can't think of one. Let me know what you guys think. Why, if you're PlayStation, would you release God of War Ragnarok onto PC day one at the same time as PS5? Like, the supply isn't even close to me. Like, it's still not meeting the demand for the console. All you're doing is restricting the amount of money this game is going to make. Games make the most money in their first, 2 weeks at launch? So, it may be even sooner than we think. Okay, so Jetpack, which bills itself as a small and nimble team, is currently looking to hire programmers for work on the upcoming live service game. We're excited to embark on a new live service title with Sony. We're ready to launch. If you're an experienced game developer and you want to join our team to ship a AAA title, reach out. Working directly with Sony to develop one of the flagship IPs within its much anticipated live service games portfolio. So that's what they're moving towards. I mean, they still, MLB The Show, yeah, that is considered a live service game, even though that is multi-platform. And it just shows you that their strategy is where it's going. They're moving away from the console exclusivity, which is something I called way before years ago. If this would be happening, console exclusivity is essentially, with PlayStation, Xbox, essentially it's a losing strategy. It's going away. But it's 12 live service games, not 10. So I was more than I thought. They've worked on a bunch of different stuff here. I guess the main point of this article is we're really seeing that strategy switch by PlayStation back to following in the footsteps of what Xbox has been doing. And like I said, I think that this gen, I think that they were just completely caught off guard. And they're going to be too late. They're going to be moving too late, which sets Xbox up perfectly for overtaking PlayStation in general in terms of the leaders in going forward. It's just the thing where Xbox has to improve on is obviously in the Asian markets in Japan, which will be continuously hard for them to break into. I have to agree with Saudi Arabia with the acquisition with Microsoft and Activision. Get rid of the exclusive modes to one console to make it free for all instead of... Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. Do not... You have a multi-platform game. You have exclusive modes to a console. You have exclusive quests like they're doing with Hogwarts Legacy. It's just absolutely detrimental and terrible for the consumer, for the gamer. Anyone who supports that is an idiot. Honestly, they're just idiots. If you support exclusive quests on a game that's multi-platform for your platform, you're just an idiot. Black Knight, I've always been an Xbox fan. I got a PS4 later and was so bored only playing one and done titles. Like I said, I got a PS4 first. I actually stood in line at Future Shop, which we don't have anymore. So that was in Canada. Now they're all Best Buys. Got a PS4 day one. And man, I enjoyed my PS4 up until I got my Xbox One, and I got an Xbox One, I think it was a year and a half later, whenever they released, I bought it for the Master Chief collection, and then I got the Sunset Overdrive game with it. So I was hooked right away because I had Sunset Overdrive, which luckily I played only because Master Chief collection just didn't work at launch. So I just okay, well, I got nothing else to play. So I'll play Sunset Overdrive. Probably wouldn't have played it, and it became easily one of my favorite video games in that generation. Maybe one of my favorite video games ever. I actually absolutely love Sunset Overdrive. It's an incredible game, and it's a shame that we'll probably never see a second one. And if we do see a second one, it's going to be locked only to PS5 or PS6 or whatever, if they ever make one, because it's Insomniac. But absolutely incredible game. If there's one thing I love about PlayStation is Insomniac. I think Insomniac makes some of the best games in the industry. They're incredible developer. I love pretty much all of their games. The Sony fanboys work really hard on spreading lies and misinformation about Game Pass to try and slow its growth. The question I have about that is, who believes any of these dudes, man? I don't get it. I go on Twitter and I read some of this dumb shit that these PlayStation fanboys tweet out. And the frustrating part is that everybody just tweets them and fights them. You gotta understand, these guys are saying these things not because they actually believe it, but because it creates reactions. There's no way you can believe some of the stuff there's no way they can believe some of the stuff that they say. There's just no way. But then again, then again, I'm coming at it from a point of point of objectivity, I guess, where people may not think I'm objective. They may think I'm a huge Xbox fanboy. I love Xbox. It is my preference platform 100%. I've said that so many times. I don't ever try to deny that. But if PlayStation was doing the exact same things right now that Xbox was doing, providing the same amount of value, I would be in love with both platforms just as much. Just as much. I mean, I was a PlayStation gamer, PS1, PS2, and 360 more. PS2 I had first, and then it broke, and PlayStation wouldn't fix it for me, so I got an original Xbox, which then brought me to 360. And but then like the 360 generation, I play a ton of, probably one of my favorite consoles of all time. But in the very end of that generation, I play a ton of PS3. Like I thought PS3, the slim version, was a great console at the end of the generation. And then PS4 and Xbox One. PS4, like I said, I bought first. Spider-Man PC port isn't that great. At 1440p, it's very pixelated and reflections look meh once at the high side. I haven't played Spider-Man on PC, only on PS5 and PS4. They don't want idiots boycotting God of War like COD over dumb PC ports. Here's the thing, though. This is what I don't understand, and I'll never understand it, because it seems like they are making decisions based off of PlayStation fanboys. Well, the thing people got to understand about PlayStation fanboys is that PlayStation fanboys and the idiots on Twitter are like maybe 1%, maybe even less than the amount of money they're making. Like, it's literally nothing to them. That's not their consumer base that's making them all their money. So I don't know why they're making some of the decisions that they're making. It can't be because of PlayStation fanboys. It just can't, because there's not enough money within those fanboys for them. Like, there just isn't. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, the people on Twitter represent like literally less than 0.5% of like the fanboy idiots, right? Who say the stupid things and then go on and try to boycott. Like, there's no way that like those are people that are, first of all, half those people probably aren't even paying or even playing half of these games. They're just on there just like causing shit. That's why I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't make sense. Sony price hike increased everywhere, even in Japan. Japanese players moving to Xbox and Japanese developers making games for Xbox. I hope they support Microsoft and Activision. Moved to A, increased everywhere except for the US, right? United States. The PS5 disc edition was $30 more in Canada at launch. Now it's $50 more than the Xbox Series X. So it's crazy how they increased the price there, but we'll see how that affects. Like you said, in Japan, we're hearing, I think what's her name? Sarah Bond said that they're working with 250 developers or something like that, or for partnerships or whatever for Xbox games from Japan, which is going to be huge. It'll be, the thing with Japan is that they got to look at all the stats for Game Pass and how that's taking off, because that's going to be a huge measuring stick going forward as to how much more developers want to put their games into Game Pass. I'm sure they'll have numbers and they present them, and it'll get them excited. The Sony fanboys are right if the Sony games also went PC day one. Yeah, I mean, that's the second comment for that, but it's like, is Sony held hostage by the Sony PlayStation fanboys? Is this how it works? I don't understand, man. I don't get it. Because one thing's for sure is that Sony doesn't care about the fanboys. They care about making as much money as possible. And to make as much money as possible, you put God of War Ragnarok day one on PC. You're going to make way more money. Because the fanboys who are bitchy and complaining about it is probably still going to go out and buy God of War at $70 on PlayStation 5 anyways. Can't wait for Jim to put Game Pass on PlayStation and the fanboys change the goalpost again. Oh, they'll love Game Pass if it comes to PlayStation. Doesn't Sony have a partnership with Azure anyways? So like, oh, it's so confusing when you see some of this stuff happen. It's like, why would PlayStation be so against this deal going through, especially if they're kind of working with Microsoft for Azure? Because wouldn't that hinder that relationship? And Microsoft would just be like, yeah, you're not going to use our cloud services anymore. Thanks, but no thanks. And go, you're not going to be able to match your quality of cloud services. I don't know. I think Sony wants to make their own PC launcher so they can try and sell the games for $70 to the PC crowd and say they will only be available there day one. They are. I'm pretty sure they are making their own PC launcher, and yeah, that's probably why they would be doing it, to keep that closed marketplace, which I think there'll be a lot of fallout from if they do that. I think there would be a huge fallout if they had a PC launcher with a closed PlayStation marketplace where you have to go there to buy their first party game, spend $70, like, and they're not on Steam as well. Like, I don't know how that would go over. I don't think that would be a good move. I mean, you look at Xbox, right? Yeah, they got Game Pass. They still put their games on Steam, and they make a ton of money off of their games on Steam. Like, Steam is so dominant in PC. I don't think anyone's ever gonna surpass Steam. Still have PlayStation a lot thanks to the great value of PlayStation Plus Essential gives me. Hey, that's actually a fair point. I'm not gonna lie. The PlayStation Plus Essential, the free monthly games, far better than what you get for Xbox games with the gold. Which, yeah, that is actually good. Like, if you want to just jump into all those games every month, that's actually a very good value. So that's true. They do have PS Plus Essential, which is far better than gold. But at the same time, it's like, you know what Xbox is trying to do. They're trying to push people over because the pricing, the strategy that Xbox has is obviously incentivize people just to sign up for Xbox Game Pass rather than just stay on gold. I would assume once you're in to Game Pass, if you've been on gold this whole time and you're just like, I don't want to sign up for Game Pass, once you do, you'll probably stay there. Probably see all the stuff that you can play. Hey, no problem, Lagoshi. Will Japanese COD content creators support COD on Xbox? That's a good question. I don't know. If they have an Xbox, sure. Why wouldn't they? I mean, at the end of the day, like, you're American or you're Japanese, you're gonna look for the best deal, like the best value. Like, why would you want to give more money for something that you can get for like literally like $15 versus Call of Duty? What is $80? 90 Canadian, but 80 American for the next gen version? Something like that? Am I crazy? No, it's 70. Yeah, it's 70. It's 70. Because, yeah, it's $70. So why? Like, what would be the incentive just to say, oh, I support a Japanese company that doesn't actually care about you, that just literally wants your money? I don't know. And I don't know how popular Call of Duty is in Japan either. Is it even something that they play there very much? Probably not that much. Probably not that much. We have Jim Ryan trending on Twitter here. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. This is a good reminder. This is actually hilarious. Where is it here? I gotta pull it up here. This is another thing that PlayStation, again, copied. But what they're doing is hilarious. What they're doing here is absolutely hilarious. And it has to do with PlayStation Stars. Before we get to that, if you're asking me here what's to play, Plague Tale, Scorn, or Persona? Oof. Honestly, for me, this is a tough one because I was very interested in Scorn. I don't know. I feel like I'm just not that interested in Scorn right now. It's going to be a very slow puzzle. I don't know. I'm just not that interested in the story right now. I've never played the first Plague Tale. I do want to play the second one, but if I had to choose between those three right now, I'd probably honestly just jump into Persona personally, just to play it, like run through it on Xbox, get achievements, all that stuff. Like, I think it would be Persona for me. So the way I'm feeling right now with it, it would be very close between that and Plague Tale, but I think right now it would be Persona. What do I think about the narrative that Sony guys are trying to push, saying that Xbox gamers don't want or like Japanese games? I don't think that's well, I didn't read this question before I just made my answer about Persona, but clearly I'm an Xbox gamer and I like Japanese games. Actually, I'm playing right now. I started it yesterday as well. I forgot to mention at the beginning. I'm playing Ni no Kuni, the remastered game. And that game, I played it way back. I don't know if I completed it, but I played it way back on the PS4, I believe, or did it come out on the PS3? Like whenever it first came out, it was a long time ago. And that game is actually incredible. Yeah, it's actually really good. Yeah, it was PS3, I believe. A game is really, really good. Ni no Kuni and the Wrath of the White Witch. If you haven't played that, really cool game. So no, I don't think that's a fair narrative. I think that like when you don't give people the opportunity ever to be able to experience or try certain types of games, of course they're not going to know what they like, if they like it or not. They've never been given the chance. I think it's going to be very telling, the numbers that come out once Persona comes on the Game Pass, with what Ni no Kuni's doing with Blaze Blue and Guilty Gear and all the games that were announced at TGS. Once those are into the service, how well those do in terms of numbers and the amount of time people are playing, I think it's going to be very telling, because you can only look at it comparatively to like this amount of subscribers on there, right? Like you take a look at 25 million plus subscribers. How much are people playing other games versus some of these Japanese games within the service? I wouldn't be surprised if some people are playing Japanese games more than they are playing some of the other games. And obviously vice versa as well. But like, I just think like if you don't give people the opportunity to try these games out, which is literally what they're doing, what they've done because of the Xbox One generation, how are people even going to know that they like these games? At the same time, once they launch into Xbox Game Pass, people, when games, I don't know about you guys, but when I see games launching into Xbox Game Pass, whether it's a game I've never heard of or whatever, I get interested. I want to see what this game is. I look at like the gameplay trailer and stuff, and you're gonna see this gonna happen with all the Japanese games that come into the service. People are going to play them. So no, I think it's a silly argument. That is there any data out there to prove that? I don't think so. There hasn't been any Japanese games in a generation and a bit on Xbox, or not enough. So it's a bogus argument. Any MW2 hype for you? Yes, there is. I played the beta. I've talked about MW2 this week and last week a bit. The thing with MW2 is that it's very shiny. Like, it looks beautiful. It sounds great. It feels great. Like, man, the gameplay is solid. It's good. It's a solid game. I just found with it, I don't know if I just am terrible at the game now, but I found that like rushing, which is like what's I find the most fun about Call of Duty, is rushing around and using your reflexes to try to get kills and stuff. I found like they kind of took that away. It's very much more like campy, very much more, it's much slower paced. I think a lot of that has to do with like the footsteps and the radar, which hopefully they do change. I know they talked about changing the radar, but I will still put a lot of time into Call of Duty. I will adjust to the style of gameplay that you need to succeed in it. It's a solid game for sure. Solid game for sure. I do think Halo, honestly, foundationally is a more fun, better first-person shooter. And I said this, I tweeted this out the other day because I jumped back into Halo this week, and Halo gameplay foundationally is incredible. Maybe the best in the series. It's maybe the best in the series. They just got to get that content out there. So if I had to choose one, I would choose Halo. But yeah, I am going to play a bunch of MW2. Probably more than I think I'm going to play right now, to be honest. Thank you, Verg Brizzle. Yes, please, guys, if you haven't hit the thumbs up, hit the thumbs up. Share the channel around with your friends and wherever. The channel, the stream, like I do the news videos. So like I said, trying to grow this channel to 10K before the end of the year. Is it possible? Maybe not. But if we do hit 10K, it'll be very, very cool. Help grow this community. There's so many things I want to do with this channel. So many things, like, I don't know. We'd love to have like conversations with PlayStation dudes, or even conversations with you guys, just like, I've seen channels do like call-ins. I think David Jaffe does like call-ins, or like get questions from people like through like Discord stuff. If anyone would be interested in that, I may try to set that up at some point. A lot of things a lot of ideas, not enough time. A lot of things I want to think of doing with the channel. Remember, Kingdom Hearts was the only Japanese franchise I cared about, but was locked to the PlayStation. I mostly got PS4 Kingdom Hearts 3 just to find it was coming Xbox. I actually really enjoyed Kingdom Hearts 3. One thing about Kingdom Hearts is that if you were to ask me to explain the story, I couldn't tell you a damn thing about the story of Kingdom Hearts. There was Goofy in it, and Sora, and you have a Keyblade, and you go around and you beat things up. But I've played through them, and like honestly, the story's just like, pfft. I loved Kingdom Hearts 3. I thought it was a ton of fun. But honestly, when I hear most people think Kingdom Hearts story is pretty convoluted. Even with most games, if you're gonna ask me like to recite every story element of a game that I've played, I literally am terrible at that. Remembering like every element, remembering the character names. I don't know why, but I'm so bad at that stuff. And people, when they ask me questions, I'm like, yeah, I played that game. And they ask me questions about like this like intricate thing that happened in the story, and I can't remember. Probably think I didn't actually play the game, but I have. Question: is an old game still considered an old game for people who have never had access to it before on their platforms, like Ni no Kuni and Persona hitting Xbox for the first time? For that individual, no, it's not. It's a brand new game. I don't think so. I mean, it's old objectively because it came out 10 years ago or something. So objectively, it was if you look at time, it is old. It's 10 years old. Yes. Objectively. But for this individual person, subjectively, it isn't old. It's something brand new to them that they've never experienced and maybe didn't even know existed. To them, it's a brand new game and a brand new experience, which is, like I said about the Japanese stuff. How can you say Xbox players don't play Japanese games when they literally haven't had the opportunity to play these games ever? And now they're getting the opportunity. So for them, now with that opportunity there, especially coming onto Game Pass, if they don't play them, then I guess once those numbers are out, you could make that argument. But I mean, it's just a stupid argument at this point. What these Japanese developers and publishers do is they look at the install base. That's all they do. It's not, they're not like, oh, like Xbox. Oh, they're American. We dislike them. We're not going to put games onto their platform. They look at the install base and they're like, okay, there's like 1 million Xboxes here and 100 or 80 million, whatever, PlayStations, whatever it is, 100 million. Or I don't know how many are in Japan, but you know what I mean, trying to say. And why would we waste time with their development costs when the return on investment for putting it on that platform in Japan specifically isn't going to be there? What's the point? And then if you put it on in Japan, it's going to come over to the West too. So like that's what they look at. What is their return on investment and their opportunity cost of putting a game onto a platform when the install base just isn't there? I mean, you're seeing it right now. The Xbox One's install base was abysmal in Japan. And honestly, like 50 million or whatever they said they sold, like it was okay. It was nothing. It just wasn't great compared to previous generation. And then, or compared to we're seeing what's going on right now with the Series X and S. The developers are looking at that and they're saying, holy crap. We have 25 million plus people already on a subscription service, probably like 30 million now. Who knows? and they literally don't need to, and then there's all the install bases of the Xboxes. Yeah, we want the return on investment of putting this or that game on the Xbox platform will be there. People will play it. And that's why they do it. It's not about like, oh, Xbox gamers don't play games. Yeah. That's a long-winded answer to your question, but that's my answer. Deathloop is considered an old game to PlayStation fans and never considered Xbox fans got a chance to play it. Yeah, I mean, that's because... Sure, it's a year-old game to PlayStation fans, but the people playing it for the first time on Xbox, it's a brand new game. And I talked about this, I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, but like you look at the hype over Deathloop on coming to Xbox game that, again, got to use the two things, like objectively in the terms of time, it's a year old, but subjectively to people on Xbox, it's a brand new game. The amount of hype that year-old game is getting, releasing into Game Pass, just sit back and think how crazy it's going to be when they release day and date Bethesda games onto Game Pass. If there's that much hype for Deathloop, which is a game that has been out for a year on PlayStation, it's going to be insane when Starfield comes out, when Redfall comes out, when the next Call of Duty comes out, when Fable, Forza Motorsport, next Gears of War, Perfect Dark. Like the amount of traction and tension those are going to get, it's going to be crazy. People have to look at look at the right now and not like look into the future as to how what's happening is going to affect the industry. But like 2022, yeah, down year for Xbox first party. 2023 is going to be insane. You're going to see the explosion of Game Pass subscribers. Like guarantee it, especially with Starfield. Fan of Japanese games. I have an Xbox, so what? I would love more Japanese games to Game Pass. Yeah, I think a lot of people would. But the last thing, we got into some comments here. Last thing I want to talk about here. Sign up for that is PlayStation Stars loyalty program. We know PlayStation Stars is going to be the same as the Microsoft, the Xbox rewards. You sign into Game Pass, you get like your weekly, your dailies, and you get a ton of free stuff from those rewards. It's actually a great service. And we know PlayStation Stars is starting a loyalty program, which I actually honestly like. Yeah, they're copying Xbox, but this is a good thing. Like, this is why competition, this is why Xbox being prominent in the industry is a great thing, because you see other companies following in those footsteps. Now we have PlayStation Stars here. And it's their loyalty program. And one of the things that people are laughing about, which I think is actually ridiculous that they're doing this, is that they're offering better customer support to those at a higher reward tier. So as reported by VGC, those using the service after its launch in Japan today, which is September 29th, have complained that those on the service's fourth tier get improved customer support. Users can move up tiers by buying games from PlayStation Store. This is crazy. And earning trophies, effectively meaning that those with more money will receive better support from Sony. Honestly, this is the first time I've actually read through this. I saw the headlines of it, but I want to talk about it. I hadn't had time to go through it. But as I'm reading through this, my mind is just like, what is going on here? When contacting PlayStation customer support, you will be given a priority in the chat order. The reward list reads, and getting there requires users to first buy 4 games from the PlayStation Store and earn 128 rare trophies. Ugh. Is this real life? Is this what? I swear this is the first time I ever read this quote. I didn't know it was this bad. I saw people talking about it on Twitter. I hadn't covered it in any of my daily videos about the news and stuff. I didn't realize that they were going to the extent where you had to buy 4 games from the PlayStation Store or 128 rare trophies to get better. I don't even know how to react to this. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And like, how do people support this? Do I even want to continue reading this article? Does it get better? Those who've done so will therefore be able to speak with PlayStation's customer support ahead of those who spent less money. Something that has some users upset. It's not guaranteed that this PlayStation Stars reward will arrive with the North American or European and other versions of the service, but Sony hasn't indicated that anything will be different between regions. The reward program will also give players the likes of PlayStation Store wallet funds and select PlayStation Store products alongside a series of virtual collectibles that are definitely not NFTs. What? Holy shit, I honestly had not read this. I thought people were just like trolling PlayStation and everything. But this is like way dumber than I thought it was going to be. And you what, like, I don't get it. Like, how can people go onto channels like mine and say that, like, I'm an Xbox fanboy when PlayStation does stuff like this? Like, this is absolutely absurd that you have to buy 4 games and earn 128 rare trophies to get ahead in a queue for support. So, like, if somebody were to try to get into support, they've been waiting an hour. Some guy pops in, it's like, yeah, man, I just bought 4 games and got a bunch of trophies. Like, they're gonna move ahead of this person that's been waiting there, when that person who's waiting for the support has already invested who knows how much into PlayStation, who knows how many PlayStations they have. They probably have PS5. Like, they've already invested money in the console. That should be enough to be able to get support on the products that you've purchased. This is actually the dumbest thing. Sony is dumb. They're just dumb. I don't know what else to say. Like, and if you're in Japan, like, do you look at this and be like, oh man, I gotta continue to support PlayStation because they're Japanese? Like, how can they look at it, something like this PlayStation Stars thing, and think that this is a great loyalty program? This is what blows my mind, because this is this type of stuff as to why somebody like myself is so high on Xbox in this generation and so low on PlayStation this generation. Like, I don't get how they can do stuff like this and people will just continue to support it and not call it out, because like, this is actually ridiculous. Well, when contacting PlayStation customer support, you will be given priority in the chat order. The reward list reads, and getting there requires users to first buy 4 games from the PlayStation Store and earn 128 rare trophies. So you buy a PS5, you don't have any purchases from the PlayStation Store, you don't know how to set up your PS5, something's not working, you're going to be lower in the queue to so many other people, because a lot of people probably have already bought those 4 games or whatever. Woof. So PlayStation Stars, as I was about to say, as I started this segment off saying, hey man, like, yeah, they're copying Xbox, but this is why competition is good, and this is why you need companies like Xbox to push competition and to not bow out and to continue to release things like the Xbox Microsoft Awards where you get free stuff. Because then if you're on another platform, you have companies copying those things and you're gonna get those benefits too. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect this customer support stuff. Man, I gotta start doing these Plumecasts more with coming into it with literally not having read the articles and then giving the live reactions to, like, or at least not knowing anything that happened, and then give the live reaction, because this is hilarious. Yeah, that's terrible. I guess my conclusion to this is that PlayStation Stars already sucks compared to the Xbox Awards. I don't really know what else more to say about this, because it's just absolutely absurd that they would be doing that, giving customer support advantages to people who are spending more money on a loyalty program. Anyways, what do you guys think about this? Because I don't really got to, like, I've already lost full interest in PlayStation Stars. I can pay for priority, but never a return policy. Sony's like, instead of actually trying to give people better customer service, how about we paywall slightly faster? Bad customer service. You know, their customer service does suck compared to Xboxes as well. So I made videos about this. You can go back on my channel. When I bought my Xbox Series X, my first one was, I was getting that glitch. I think a lot of people were getting it where like I would start NBA, I think it was 2K22 at the time. No, 2K21 when the Xbox came out. 2K21. Every time I launch 2K21, my Xbox would turn off. And it was an issue with something like certain games would make the fans go too fast, which would make the console think that it was like overheating and it would turn off or whatever. I don't know, something like that. Or maybe it was overheating. Anyways, I called Xbox. I sent in this was in the first maybe 2 weeks of the Series X release. Sent in my Series X on the Monday. I got a brand new Series X with the whole package. And by the way, I didn't have to send in my controller, so I got a free controller. Sent in my Series X, got a brand new Series X on the Thursday. This was just after the release when nobody could get an Xbox. That's how good the customer service was. When I think back to the PS2, one of the biggest reasons why I ever got into Xbox was because their customer service was so bad. My PS2 broke, not a fault of my own. And instead of helping me, they didn't help me. They didn't replace it. They did nothing and told me, well, it was shit out of luck. So I just bought an Xbox instead. So all of this brings back like, man, and their customer service sucks. And now they're trying to add like a loyalty program to get higher into a shitty customer service. Craziness. I don't even know what to say. Sony fans are excited for the re-release of Tactic Ogre with a smoothing filter. I've never played Tactics Ogre, but I have a friend who loves this game. Tells me it's a great game. He's very excited. I don't know if he's excited for the re-release, but just in general for Tactics Ogre. So far, Tactics Ogre doesn't have a listed Xbox version. And again, this goes back to the point. How can you say that Xbox gamers don't play Japanese games if they don't even get the chance? They don't even get the chance to play them. Bet those 4 games are $60 each. Sorry, $70. Yeah, probably. I mean, that's crazy. Jab Microsoft replacing millions of consoles, top tier customers. I mean, they do it still now. Honestly, they're like I said, their customer service right now is incredible. But yeah, the 360, you think about that with the Xbox Power On documentary. Like, holy crap. Like, the fact that they were able to replace like 50% failure rate in salvage Xbox. If they didn't do that, there would be no more Xbox. I wonder what PlayStation would do if 50% of their consoles ever failed. Xbox International, what's up, guys? How y'all doing? Xbox International Podcast, isn't this? Wait, is this Crazy Louis? Who's on this? Who's on this account? Can't tell. Well, what's up? What if you have only physical games? You won't ever be buying anything from PlayStation Store. Yeah, that's another great point. I only buy physical games pretty much on PlayStation because I generally, if I'm buying a PlayStation game, it's like I'm going to be buying God of War Ragnarok. That's going to be physical because I'm going to play it and sell it and get back half my money right away. Yeah, like, yeah. How does that work? It makes no sense. It just doesn't make any sense. Just to compare, you can get around 2 years of Game Pass for around the same price to get access to this priority. Yet, I've done my drink. I don't understand how people are like, oh, this is great. PlayStation's great. They do great things. I know if someone were to clip this, you would think I'm like a super fanboy, but this shit is actually ridiculous. If you just like the gaming industry, how do you look at this and think this is at all a positive or a good thing? It makes absolutely no sense. Absolutely no sense. If like if I was reversed right now on this generation, if I was a PS5 fanboy, I was into PlayStation 5, there's so many things that have already happened throughout this generation since the start that would have turned me off. But this year would be the final straw. This would be like, okay, I'm buying an Xbox and I'm going to Xbox. Like that would be the final straw. When there's already a billion things that happened already that you should be like, I don't know if I should be supporting this right now with the way that they're treating their customers. I don't know if I should be supporting blindly giving my money to a big corporation that couldn't care if I died tomorrow. But this year would be the final straw for me, for sure. That's actually ridiculous. Dumb question. Can I buy used Xbox One games and play it on my Series X? You can. You can. Should be no issues with that whatsoever. All right. I think I'm gonna call it a night. Yeah, that was fun. That was a fun Plumecast. Learned some things, talked about some things. Great chat. If you haven't hit thumbs up, hit the thumbs up. Thanks you guys all again for stopping by. Really enjoy just hanging out with you guys on Saturday night. Always a fun time. Keep your eyes out for my videos coming up, and yeah, we will talk. We'll continue to talk and throughout the week in my videos and next within the Plumecast. I hope you guys all have a good night, and I will catch you guys later.